and welcome back to the Magic Classroom channel. My name is Jenny. Yesterday, I received this encyclopedia called The Bacteria Book. Lots of my fans asked me about this book that I wrote in my diary, so I'm going to introduce this book to you by reading it. So let's get started. The Bacteria Book. What is a microbe? A microorganism or microbe is any living creature that is so small you can't see it with your eyes. The most common microbe is bacteria, which first appeared on Earth more than 3.6 billion years ago. Smaller than rice. Just how small are these creatures? Zoom in 3,000 times on a single grain of rice, and you might start to see lots of little bacteria. Viruses, another type of microbe, are smaller still. One grain of rice is about 0.25 in 6 millimeters long. There could be as many as 1 trillion species of microbe on Earth. Grams of rice are thousands of times longer than bacteria. There are many bacteria on a grain of rice and in the air around it. Actual size. The biggest bacteria are still tiny at about 0.3 in 0.75 millimeters, the size of this blue dot. So the dot is here. Bacteria are 10 to 100 times longer than viruses. A bacteriophage is a virus that attacks bacteria. If you were a microbe, if you were shrunk down to the size of bacteria, a grain of rice would seem bigger than a mountain. That's how small microbes are. Can you imagine it? If this mountain represents a grain of rice, a person would be the size of bacteria, and a cell phone would be the size of a virus. Are microbes really alive? Although they are tiny, yes! Scientists don't agree on what makes something alive, but all living things seem to share certain features, such as the ability to move and to grow. Viruses only have some of these features, however, so some people think they aren't alive. Meet the microbes. Say hello to the smallest critters on Earth. Here are 6 of the most common types of microbe. These creatures are everywhere you look, even though you usually can't see them. Bacteria. Bacteria are made of just one cell each, and they are the simplest cells on the planet. There are more bacteria on Earth than any other form of life. Bacteria come in different shapes. These ones are world-shaped. Gymnasia bacteria. Viruses are the smaller microbes. They are so small they live inside the cells of other creatures. Many scientists say viruses may not even be alive since they don't eat or grow. Bacteriophage virus. This virus is attaching itself to a bacteria cell. Since Parallelism was mosum fungus. This fungus is made up of many cells. It grows inside broken fingernails. So this fungus grows inside this. Algae. Many algae are made of one cell each, but they are usually bigger than bacteria. Like plants, algae use a green chemical called chlorophyll to turn sunlight into useful energy. Green algae. Protozoa. Protozoa are made of only one cell. These creatures behave a bit like animals. They move around and eat other living things. Parasitic amoeba protozoa. This protozoa lives inside fish. When it moves, it looks like it's walking. Archaea. Archaea look a lot like bacteria, but they behave in different ways. They can survive in extreme environments, such as very hot places or strong acids. Heptamorphic archaea. This archaea doesn't mind the heat. Seeing is believing. Microbes are creatures we can't see with just our eyes, so how do we know they exist? One way is by looking through a microscope, but this isn't the only way. Microscope. This tool uses curved glass lenses to make things look bigger and clearer. You can see something as small as 1,000th of a millimeter with a laboratory microscope. We dye bacteria colors like violet or red to make them easier to see under a microscope. Electron microscope. Some microbes, such as viruses, are too small to be seen with a regular microscope. Scientists use a special tool called an electron microscope to fire tiny particles called electrons at the virus. The electrons help make a computer picture. Images appear on a computer screen after a few minutes. Colored pictures. Pictures made using an electron microscope are black and white. People are colored to the images later to make them clearer. Growing blobs. Scientists make bacteria grow on special plates called petri dishes filled with a nutrient-rich goop called agar. The nutrients in the agar help the bacteria grow. After same time, the bacteria blobs are big enough for us to see. Microbes that can make people sick are called germs. Staphylococcus lives on most people's skin. This bacteria is usually harmless. All about cells. When you think of living creatures or organisms, you'll probably think of animals and plants, not microscopic bulbs. But all living creatures have something in common, from the biggest mammal to the smallest bacteria. They are all made of cells. The human body is made of about 30 trillion cells. Animal cells. Look at your skin under a microscope and you'll see is made of cells. We don't think of them as being alive because they can't grow and reproduce on their own. The cells in your body work together to keep the whole organism alive. Skin cells work together to form a protective barrier for your body. When a skin cell is separated from your body, it dies. It can no longer grow or reproduce. Bacteria and other microbe cells can live on their own. Microbe cells. These are microbe cells. Unlike skin cells, they don't need to stick together to stay alive. If you remove one bacterial cell, it will keep growing and reproducing as long as it has enough nutrients. Bacteria in Petri dish. Parts of a cell. Cells come in many shapes and sizes. Some have simple structures and some are really complex. However, they all have 3 parts in common: DNA, cytoplasm, and a cell membrane. The cell membrane holds the cell together and lets chemicals in and out. Cytoplasm is a jelly-like substance that fills the inside of the cell. DNA is a big molecule that tells the cell how to grow and behave. What are bacteria? There are millions of bacteria in a teaspoon of pond water or a pinch of soil. About 5 million trillion bacteria are alive on Earth, which together weigh more than all the plants and animals combined. But what are they really? Bacteria cell. Every bacteria is made of one cell. The inside of a bacteria cell is much simpler than the cells of other living things. The extra layer of protection around the cell is called the cell wall. Some bacteria have little hairs called pili. They use their pili to attach the surfaces. Bacteria with tails can swim 100 times their own length in 1 second. This is the cell membrane. It lets in nutrients that help the cell grow and lets out waste the cell doesn't need. Some bacteria have a spinning tail called a flagellum that propels them forward. This long tangled string is called DNA. It stores information about what the cell is and how it works. Cytoplasm is the thick gel that fills the cell. Inside the ribosome, building bacteria floating in the cytoplasm of a bacterial cell are little molecules called ribosomes. Ribosomes are like tiny factories. They read bits of copied DNA like an instruction manual, then use the instructions to build parts for the cell that they're in. Shaping up. Bacteria come in many shapes and sizes. Here are the most common. Cocci. Cocci bacteria are round or oval like balls. Bacilli. Bacilli bacteria are shaped like little pills or rods. Spirator bacteria are long and twisty, like a corkscrew. Growing and dividing. Bacteria and other organisms made of just one cell reproduce or create new organisms by dividing into two copies of themselves. Through this process, one little bacteria cell can quickly turn into many. The power of doubling. An E. coli bacteria cell takes 20 minutes to split into two. That may sound slow, but with enough food, each of the new cells will also double after 20 minutes, then again and again until one cell becomes billions. Bacteria grow bigger by taking in food or nutrients, but they can't keep getting bigger forever. When a bacteria cell gets to a certain size, it makes a copy of its DNA. The two copies move to separate ends of the cell. The cell then splits in the middle to make two new cells with one copy of the DNA in each. The two new cells are identical. With enough nutrients, they will both grow and split, making 4 cells. Every time the cells split, the total number of cells doubles. This time 4 cells become 8. 8 cells become 16. 16 cells become 32. 32 cells become 64. And 64 cells become 128. After 12 hours, one bacteria cell can grow and divide into 70 billion. Perfect conditions. Bacteria grow faster when the conditions are just right. They lack lots of moisture, warmth, and nutrients. Scientists can create these conditions in a petri dish to grow bacteria they want to study. Bacteria cells multiplying. Where in the world? Where can you find bacteria? The short answer is everywhere. Wherever you look, you'll find them doing amazing things. Here are just a few places you can go hunting for bacteria. A person carries about 4.4 pounds, 2 kilograms of bacteria in and on their body. Ocean. Bacteria are found at all depths of the ocean. At the surface, they take in energy from the sun. On the ocean floor, they get energy from chemicals. Air and sky. There are bacteria floating in the air around you, as well as in the atmosphere up above your head. Some bacteria even live inside clouds. Rocks. Some bacteria can survive inside rocks. There isn't much there to eat, so they grow slowly and reproduce only every 100 years or so. Soil. Soil is jam-packed with bacteria. The bacteria that live in soil can turn nitrogen in the air into useful nutrients for plants. This is part of a process called the nitrogen cycle. Nitrogen cycle. 1. Nitrogen is a gas that's in the air in a form plants can't use. 2. Bacteria in the soil turn nitrogen into fertilizer. 3. Plants use the fertilizer to grow. 4. Animals eat plants. 5. Animals pee, poop, and die, and plants die too. 6. Decomposers, such as worms and fungi, break down the pee, poop, and dead matter back into fertilizer. 7. Other kinds of bacteria can change fertilizer back into nitrogen. At home, your home is full of bacteria, but don't worry, most of them are completely harmless. You might find some dangerous bugs on surfaces that aren't properly cleaned. In you, bacteria play a big role in your body and on your skin. In fact, there are more bacterial cells in your body than human cells. Can a squid grow? The bobtail squid is an amazing animal. It lives in the shallow waters of the Pacific and Indian Oceans. At first glance, it appears to be glowing. Can you guess what is really making it shine? Look inside. Bobtail squid have special bacteria living in them. Chemicals inside the bacteria make them light up. This is called bioluminescence. Bacteria help the squid hide from animals below by matching the brightness of the waters above. Bobtail squid grow to about 1.2 in 30 millimeters long. That's 7 times smaller than the average squid. Light it up. Bobtail squid are the only living creatures that glow in the dark. Check out these other super shiners. Mushrooms. When fungi like mushrooms make light, we call it foxfire. They use their green glow to ward off hungry predators. Anglerfish. Female anglerfish have a body part full of glowing bacteria on their heads. It helps them lure in prey and find mates. Plankton. These waves crashing onto a beach in the Maldives, South Asia, are full of tiny bioluminescent plankton. The light confuses the predators. In your body, humans are born with a bit of bacteria, but our bodies are quickly inhabited by hundreds of species. Although we often think of bacteria as evil creatures that make us sick, most are harmless and some are even helpful. What's that smell? Most of the bacteria in your body can be found in your gut, where they help you to digest or break down your food. But they also have an embarrassing side effect, one you may notice if you eat too many beans. Mouth. The first step is chewing. Food must be broken down into smaller parts before it can be used by your body. Muscles in your throat push the food into your stomach. Stomach. Food is broken down further by acid in your stomach. The resulting goop is then passed to your small intestine. Small intestine. Special snippers called enzymes cut up non-food cells that your body can't use into shorter ones that it can. But the enzymes don't work on big molecules called oligosaccharides found in some foods, such as beans. These molecules can be snipped, but these ones can't. Large intestine. The oligosaccharides pass to your large intestine. Bacteria there can break them down. As they do, the bacteria produce hydrogen and methane gas, which builds up until you fart it out. Bacteria digests the molecule and makes gas. Gas made by the bacteria leaves your body as a fart. The bad guys. Most bacteria are harmless. Some are even helpful, but some can cause us to feel unwell. These harmful bacteria have clever ways of getting from one human host to the next. About half the weight of your poop is bacteria. Cholera. Cholera is a terrible illness that spreads easily in places where the drinking water is not clean. In 1855, scientist John Snow discovered that a cholera outbreak in London, England, was caused by something in the water. Bacteria multiply. Cholera bacteria multiply inside the warm, moist digestive system of its victim. They attach themselves to the lining of the small intestine and release dangerous chemicals called toxins. Diarrhea. The toxins cause the person's body to pump water into the small intestine, making their poop very runny. Cesspool. In the 1800s in London, the toilets emptied into underground cesspools. Watery diarrhea helped the cholera bacteria flow easily through any cracks in the cesspool wall. Whooping cough. Whooping cough bacteria causes a sticky substance called mucus to build up in the lungs. The victim must cough to clear it. This sprays bacteria into the air and other people breathe it in. Once John Snow realized what was making people ill, the water pump was shut off. Infected water supply. Cholera bacteria seeped through cracks into an underground well. Before people had tap water, they would pump water from wells for drinking. Contaminated water. When people drank well water contaminated with cholera bacteria, they became infected. Acne. Acne bacteria live harmlessly inside little holes in your skin called follicles. When a follicle gets blocked, the bacteria feed on oils that build up and multiply. Your body fights back with red swelling called inflammation, a pimple. Symptoms pass on. This new victim now has diarrhea too. She will add more cholera bacteria to the cesspool. Cycle continues. Cholera infected more drinking water and spread the disease to new victims. Your body's defenses. Your body has all sorts of ways to defend itself against harmful microbes or germs. Together, these defenses make up your immune system. Your immune system's first line of defense is your skin. Cut. Your skin is your biggest organ. It's a tough layer of armor around your body. When it's cut, the tissue underneath is exposed to germs which can cause infection. Dangerous bacteria and germs can't get through your skin. When you get a cut, your immune system sends more bacteria-fighting blood to the area, causing your skin to become red and swollen. Allergies. When your immune system attacks something that isn't harmful, such as pollen, it's called an allergy. Having an allergy to pollen is called hay fever. Macrophage. This incredible sight is a type of white blood cell called a macrophage. It engulfs germs and tears. It engulfs germs and tears them apart using chemicals called enzymes. Bacteria can produce toxins that hurt your body. This type of white blood cell releases chemicals to fight those toxins. The blood in your body flows through a system of tubes called arteries. Inside your blood are different types of white blood cells, all with different ways of fighting germs. This kind of white blood cell releases chemicals called antibodies that kill or stun invading germs. Then the macrophages can easily gobble them up. Other defenses. Your immune system has a few other tricks that help to stop an infection in its tracks. Fever. When you have a fever, your body temperature is higher than normal. Fevers fight germs and help white blood cells work better. Sneezing. Microbes in your nose can make you sneeze. Sneezing helps to expel the germs, keeping you healthy. Tears. Germs can irritate your eyes. The tears they cause, try to flush them out. The story of antibiotics. There are ways to avoid getting infected by bacteria, such as washing your hands and not touching your eyes and mouth. If you already have an infection, however, your doctor might give you medicine. Medicines that fight bacteria are called antibiotics. Amazing discovery. There used to be no treatment for deadly bacterial infections such as pneumonia. Then, bacteriologist Alexander Fleming accidentally discovered something amazing. In 1928, before leaving for a trip, Alexander Fleming set up bacteria samples to grow in petri dishes while he was away. When he returned, one sample looked very strange. Fleming had left his lab a little messy. Different substances had gotten into the petri dishes. One of them had some mold in it. Mold is a type of fungus, and it had a surprising effect on the bacteria. Fleming figured out what had happened. The hungry mold called Penicillium had killed nearby bacteria competing for nutrients by releasing a molecule we now call penicillin. The penicillin had made the bacteria cells pop. Fleming's Petri dish. Healthy bacteria. Popped bacteria. Penicillium mold. Pow! The penicillium fungus knocks out the bacteria cell. Fungus is the winner. Over time, scientists figure out how to separate the penicillin from its mold. Penicillin is now used to treat bacteria infections all over the world. But then, bacteria fight back. Bacteria don't give up easily. They can get used to an antibiotic, causing it to stop working. This is why scientists are always on the hunt for new antibiotics. Antibiotic mostly works. An antibiotic can kill bacteria, but some cells that are slightly different or mutated survive. Antibiotic stops working. The mutated bacteria grow and multiply. The old antibiotic doesn't work too well on these bacteria. New antibiotic works. New antibiotics are found that kill the mutated bacteria, but new mutations continue to form. Bacteria with superpowers. Bacteria have been around for nearly 4 billion years, and in that time, they have developed some amazing abilities. Here are just a few of their surprising superpowers. They're magnetic. Magnetotactic bacteria have a long string of magnetic crystals inside them that acts like a compass needle. The crystals help the bacteria to be able to point north. They're electric. Some bacteria, such as Shigella, grow little hairs that act like wires. The hairs pull electricity in and push it out. They even poop an electric charge. They're super sticky. The stickiest bacteria, Corobacter crescentus, is 3 times stronger than superglue. The glue that it produces is made of sugar. Bacteria on a human tooth. On your teeth, stickiness is common in bacteria. For example, some bacteria stick to your teeth and cause tooth decay. Did you know there are more bacteria in your mouth than there are people in the world? They're dissolving. Photorhabdus bacteria can dissolve a caterpillar from the inside. This makes it edible for other creatures, such as the nematode worm that carries the bacteria around in its gut. Oh, and it grows. Bacteria put to work. Humans have been using bacteria for thousands of years without knowing it, inside our bodies. Now, thanks to technology, we're finding lots of creative new ways to use bacteria. Making medicine. Your pancreas makes a chemical called insulin that helps balance the amount of sugar in your blood. People with a disease called diabetes can't make enough insulin on their own, so they have to inject it. That's where bacteria comes in. Before the bacteria method, people used insulin from a pig's pancreas. How to make insulin? Use human DNA. DNA tells cells how to make certain chemicals, such as insulin. First, scientists cut the insulin-making part out of a string of human DNA. Human DNA. This bit knows how to make insulin. Put in bacteria. Scientists then put the insulin-making DNA into E. coli bacteria. E. coli bacteria. The bacteria will start making insulin. Grow and harvest. When the bacteria grows and multiples, the new bacteria cells will make and release insulin too. Helping hand. People use bacteria to make all sorts of products that make our world better, from growing hardy crops to helping us clean up our mistakes. Cleaning clothes. Bacteria make molecules called enzymes that break down other molecules. We put these enzymes in laundry detergent to help break down stains in our clothes. Making materials. Scientists are experimenting with ways bacteria can be used to make building materials. For example, some bacteria can stick sand together to make bricks. Insects are eating away at these crops. These insect-resistant crops are healthier. Protecting crops. Some plants can resist the insects that try to eat them. We can take instructions from these plants' DNA and copy it into bacteria, then put that bacteria into other plants to make them resistant too. Oil spills are harmful for sea life, but bacteria help clean them up. Eating oil. Bacteria in the ocean help clean up oil spilled by ships. People speed up this process by using chemicals to break the oil into tiny droplets. The bacteria can eat more easily. What is a virus? If you've ever had a cold, then you've been infected by a virus. Viruses are the simplest form of life and are much smaller than bacteria. They are responsible for lots of different diseases. Living in bacteria. Unlike bacteria, viruses can't make copies of themselves or reproduce without help. They have to force the cells of another organism to do the copying for them. A bacteriophage is a type of virus that infects bacteria. The shell of a virus is called a capsid. Instructions for building a copy of the virus are stored in its DNA. These tail fibers help the virus attach to the bacteria cell. Bacterial cell wall. Bacterial cell membrane. Making copies. The virus injects its DNA into the bacterial cell. DNA is a really long molecule. It is a bit like an instruction manual because it holds all of the instructions for building copies of the virus. Special molecules inside the bacterial cell blindly follow the instructions held in the virus's DNA. Different parts of the virus are built separately by the bacterial cell. Then they snap together. Once the virus is fully formed, it bursts out, ready to find and infect another cell. Shapes. Viruses come in a variety of different shapes and sizes. Here are just a few examples. Adenovirus. Adenovirus affects breathing. Breathing. Its shell is shaped like 20 triangles arranged into a ball. Influenza. Influenza, the flu virus, is wrapped in a layer of the infected person's skin. Ebola. Ebola is shaped like a curly tube. It is an incredibly deadly virus. Catching a cold. The common cold is a viral infection that gives you a runny nose, sore throat, and headache. The average child catches 7 colds a year, which is more than any other infection. Rhinovirus. Colds are caused by more than 200 different viruses. The most common cold virus is the rhinovirus. There is no known cure for the common cold. So, infected with rhinovirus. Passing it on. To infect a new person, a cold virus must somehow get into the nose, eyes, or mouth of its next victim. As you see below, that's not hard to do. Wiping snot. If someone with a cold wipes a runny nose, the cold virus is transferred to their hand. The virus is in a sticky mucus called snot. Touching hands. Touching someone's hand will transfer the virus to their hand. Eating food. Touching your food transfers the virus from your skin to your snack. The virus is now on the apple. Break the cycle. There are a few simple steps you can take to stop a common cold from spreading. Cover your mouth. Sneeze and cough into a tissue or on the inside of your elbow, not your hand. Eat and sleep well. Eating healthy foods such as fruits and vegetables and getting enough sleep will keep your body in top shape to fight viral infections. Wash your hands. Before touching your eyes, nose, or mouth, wash your hands with soap and water. Wash your hands with soap and water. Stay home. If you have a cold, stay at home until you are better so you don't pass it on to others. Getting sick. Once in your mouth, the viruses can multiply, infect your cells, and make you sick. Sneezing transfers the virus back to your hands. Wiping snot. With snot on your hands, you will transfer the virus onto anything you touch. The cycle continues. The virus can then pass onto its next victim. Fighting a virus. Your body fights viruses like it fights bad bacteria with white blood cells. But did you know that your body can learn from an infection, or that your doctor can give you a head start on fighting the next one? Memory cells. If you've had the measles virus before, you won't ever catch it again. This is thanks to special white blood cells called memory cells. They remember what your body needs to do to defeat the virus if it shows up again. When an unfamiliar virus enters your body, your immune system isn't properly prepared. The virus spreads and makes you feel sick. Once the infection is detected by your immune system, white blood cells are sent in to do battle with the virus and learn its weaknesses. Your white blood cells figure out how to defeat the virus. Your immune system is victorious. You start to feel better. Most of the white blood cells die now that their work is done, but some stick around. These are the memory cells. They hold on to a memory of the virus, so they know how to defeat it if it comes back in the future. This white blood cell will now remember the virus. Vaccines. Doctors can inject you with a vaccine which contains a weak version of a virus. Your white blood cells easily defeat the weakened virus, making new memory cells in the process. These cells will protect you if the real virus shows up. Weakened virus cells. Deadly tricks. Viruses multiply by taking over the cells of an organism. However, to survive for a long time, they must jump from one organism to the next. Some viruses have developed tricks to help them make the leap. Rabies. The rabies virus spreads when an infected animal, such as a dog, bites another creature. Amazingly, the infection makes the dog angrier and more likely to bite. This sneaky trick is what helps the virus spread. Initial infection. A dog with rabies bites another dog. The virus passes from the saliva of the first dog into the bloodstream of the second. Can viruses get weaker? When a virus jumps from an animal to a human, it can cause serious illness. But viruses become less deadly over time. A virus weakens us. Our immune systems get used to it and become better at attacking it. Lots of little rabies. Viruses attack the animal's cells, reaching the brain. The virus multiplies and travels through the dog's body to its brain. Once in the brain, the virus causes swelling. Bad behavior. Changes to the dog's brain cause its behavior to change. The dog becomes more aggressive and more likely to bite. Dangerous saliva. The virus travels down to the mouth where saliva is made. The saliva the dog produces now contains the rabies virus. The cycle starts again when the dog bites another dog. Zoonotic diseases. Though it is rare in humans, rabies is a zoonotic disease. This means it is a disease that can jump from an animal to a human. Zoonotic diseases are among the worst diseases in the world. Here are a few examples. Avian flu. Avian flu or bird flu is a type of flu that usually spreads between birds. When the virus spreads to a human, it can be deadly. West Nile fever. This virus is common in birds such as crows. It can spread to humans via mosquito bites. Many infected people don't have any symptoms, but for some, the virus causes illness. Ebola. This life-threatening disease causes a high fever and bleeding in humans. Scientists believe the virus comes from bats. Cat scratch disease. Bacteria can cause zoonotic diseases too. Cat scratch disease occurs when bacteria break into a human's body by a cat scratch. This disease causes swelling and aching muscles. Plant viruses. It's not just animals that get sick from viruses. All living things can suffer a virus attack, including plants. Because plants don't move from one place to another, plant viruses need to find other ways to spread from one victim to the next. Sneaky sense. The cucumber mosaic virus has a clever way of spreading from plant to plant. It tricks the infected plant into making a powerful odor. The smell attracts plant-eating insects called aphids, who are drawn to the sweet scent every time. What's that smell? An aphid catches the strong scent of a nearby plant. It smells lush and full of delicious nutrients. Flying toward food. Aphids swarm to the plant, ready for a yummy meal. When they get there, they take big bites. Gross! The plant is infected with a virus. When the aphids eat it, they also eat some of the virus, and it doesn't taste too good. Tulip trouble. Tulip petals are normally one color, but the tulip-breaking virus causes them to grow with white stripes that break up the color. It may look cool, but this virus is harmful to the flower. Spreading the virus. Disappointed by the taste, the aphids search for a better meal, taking the virus with them. When they find another plant and take a bite, the virus will spread. Cucumber mosaic virus. The capsid or shell of the cucumber mosaic virus is shaped kind of like a soccer ball. It is made of 12 five-sided pentagons and 26-sided hexagons. What are fungi? There are lots of different types of fungus, but they all have something in common. They get their nutrients from other organisms dead and alive by oozing fluid onto them and then sucking the nutrients back up. Mold. A lot of microbes are made of one cell, but mold, a type of fungus, is different. A few cells stick together to form threads that look like branches. They use these threads to feed on nutrients, like those in this piece of fungus-covered bread. The different colored patches on this bread are different types of mold. The threads of mold are called hyphae. Black bread mold. Rhizopus stolonifer. Funky fungi. You can find different types of fungus, such as molds, yeasts, and mushrooms, growing anywhere it is warm and damp, including on our bodies. Fungal infection. Some fungi grow on our bodies and cause diseases like athlete's foot. They thrive in the moist conditions inside sweaty shoes. Dried yeast. Yeast is a fungus used as an ingredient in baking. It makes bubbles of carbon dioxide gas that help make air pockets in foods such as bread. Mushrooms. Some fungi feed unseen underground until they are ready to reproduce. Then they pop out onto the surface as mushrooms. Pheonine crabby. To be considered a fungus, a microbe cell walls must be made of a material called chitin. Chitin is the same substance that crab shells and insect exoskeletons are made of. Megamold. Floating in the air around us are tiny dust-sized specks called spores. When they land on food, they start to grow and multiply into big patches of a fungus. Mold. Getting moldy. After a tomato is picked from its plant, the clock starts ticking. How long do you have before the mold takes over? Freshly picked. The cells of the tomato are strong. Mold spores are unable to get through the tough skin. After 1 week, without a fresh supply of nutrients from its plant, the tomato becomes weak and starts to break down. After 2 weeks, mold appears as it feeds on the nutrients released by the rotting tomato. Yuck! Mold has taken over completely and the tomato needs to be thrown away. Slow it down. Restore food in fridges to help keep it fresh. The cold temperatures slow down both the growth of the mold and the natural ripening and decay of the fruit, so mold can't get in. After 4 weeks, the tomato becomes soft and mushy as the mold eats it. Good or bad? Mold isn't always bad for you. We even grow mold on purpose sometimes. So what should you look out for? Mold in your home. Mold often grows around taps and other damp spots in your home. Too much can cause allergic reactions. Bad. Spoiled food. Unwanted mold is a sign that food has spoiled, so there may be other dangerous microbes in there. Avoid. Tasty mold. A special edible mold is grown in some foods, such as blue cheese, to give it a strong, tangy flavor. Yum! Growing and spreading. Mold seems to appear from nowhere. One day the apples in your fruit bowl are shiny and red, and the next day a patch of green fur appears on them. Where does this fungus come from? Cycle of spores. Fungi like mold use cells called spores to spread. A new organism can grow from each one. Spores are very light and tough, so they can survive long journeys floating in the air. Dandelion seeds. Spores are a lot like seeds, just like dandelion seeds. For example, mold spores are spread by the wind. When they land, a new organism grows. Spores land. The air is full of mold spores, so you'll find them settling on most surfaces, including on food. Spores grow. As food rots, nutrients are released. Mold spores use these nutrients to grow. Fungus gets bigger. The mold grows into long thread-like strands called hyphae. Hyphae are like the roots and branches of a tree, and the fungus takes in food through them. Buds appear. Buds called sporangia grow at the tops of the hyphae. These are where spores are made. Each sporangium can contain tens of thousands of spores. Buds burst. Eventually, the sporangia burst open and new spores fly out. The spores are so light they float away on the breeze, and the cycle continues. Single-celled spores are light and float like dust. Microchefs. Who would have thought microbes could also be helpful in the kitchen? We've been using fungi and bacteria in a process called fermentation for thousands of years. This process makes food last longer and makes it more delicious. Fermentation. Yeasts are a type of fungus made of one cell. They change sugars into other molecules, such as alcohol and carbon dioxide gas, through fermentation. This is why people use yeast to make drinks like wine. The first step in making wine involves crushing a lot of grapes. Traditionally, people did this by stamping on the grapes with their feet. So, you want to drink the stinky wine with your stinky feet. The stinky feet gets into your stinky wine. Grapes have natural yeast on their skins. Crushing them mixes the yeast with the sugar inside. This starts the process of fermentation. The yeast dies when the amount of alcohol becomes too high for it. If the wine is bottled before the yeast dies, bubbles of carbon dioxide are trapped, making it fizzy. Favorite foods. Fermentation is used in a few unexpected products. Here are some of the world's favorite fermented foods. The holes in bread are made by carbon dioxide gas. Bread. Yeast is added to bread dough to make bubbles of carbon dioxide. The gas is trapped in the dough, and that's what makes bread light and fluffy. Kimchi. Kimchi is a traditional Korean side dish made from cabbage and other vegetables. Bacteria ferment the cabbage to give it a sour taste. Cheese. When one of the sugars in milk, called lactose, is fermented using bacteria, it makes lactic acid. Lactic acid is what gives cheese its tangy flavor. Yogurt. Like cheese, yogurt is made by fermenting the sugars in milk. One of the main microbes responsible is a bacteria called Lactobacillus. Zombie ants. We normally think of fungi growing on dead plants and animals. However, some can grow inside living creatures and even change their behavior. One freaky fungus even turns ants into zombies. Mind control. When the spores of a certain fungus called Ophiocordyceps unilaterals land on an ant, they spread through the ant's body. Before long, the fungus will completely take over the ant's mind and behavior. Spores land. Spores fall from a fungus and land on an ant. They use special chemicals called enzymes to break into the ant's body. Fungus infects. The fungus cells multiply and spread through the ant. They release more chemicals that change the ant's behavior. Ant climbs. The fungus forces the ant to climb up to the top of a plant and bite down hard. The balls of fungus at the end of the stalks, called sporangia, will burst, releasing lots and lots of spores. Fungus stalks sprout from the ant's head. Fungus sprouts. Now anchored to the plant with its strong jaws, the ant dies. The fungus growing inside the ant bursts out in long stalks. The ant stays anchored to the plant even after it dies. Cycle continues. The fungus releases more spores which fall onto other unsuspecting ants below, making new zombie ants. Fungus farmers. Not all fungi are bad for ants. In fact, leaf-cutting ants grow fungi like crops. They take pieces of leaves to their underground nests. When fungus grows on the leaves, the ants farm it and eat it. What are algae? Have you ever seen what looks like green slime growing on a lake or pond? That's probably algae. This microbe is known for its color, but not all algae are green. The variety of these amazing creatures may surprise you. Diatoms. These are a type of algae called diatoms. Each diatom is made of only one cell. They have shells made of opal, which is a bit like glass, and they are covered in intricate ridges and holes. Some diatoms are circles, while others are triangles, squares, or stars. These beautiful microbes have inspired artists. Can you draw your own diatom? Diatoms are see-through. Diatoms are see-through, like pieces of glass. Sucroria and kelp. Algae come in many different shapes and sizes, from single-celled microscopic creatures to giant multi-celled seaweed. Sucroria. Each of these teeny green blobs is its own single called algae, called Sucroria. Sucroria only live inside other creatures. Kelp. Kelp is a type of algae called seaweed. It is usually brown and grows underwater in giant forests. Diatom shell speckled with holes in and out. The hard shell of a diatom is impermeable. Nothing can flow through it. That's why it's covered in small holes. The holes let in nutrients and let out waste products. Growing green. All algae have the same energy source. Just like plants, algae get energy from the sun in a process called photosynthesis. During this process, they also take in carbon dioxide gas and use it to make oxygen. Algal bloom. When the temperature, sunlight, and other conditions are just right, algae can take over a pond, a lake, or even a large area of the ocean. These big green bodies are called algal blooms, and they're quite a sight. Green freshwater algae. Look closer. These freshwater algae are green because of special molecules inside them called chlorophyll. The chlorophyll helps with photosynthesis. About half of the oxygen we breathe is made by algae. Algae are like the trees and grass of our oceans, lakes, ponds, and rivers. Like plants, they take in sunlight and use it to make sugar and oxygen. Energy from the sun. The chlorophyll molecules inside algae take in energy from the sun and store it as sugar. Algae can use the sugar to move and grow. Some animals, such as this snail, eat algae. They want to use the high-energy sugar to move and grow too. What are protozoa? Protozoa are made of one cell each, like bacteria, but they are actually more closely related to plants and animals. They behave like animals too, by moving around and eating other living things. Amoeba. An amoeba is a type of protozoa that looks like a splotch of jelly and can change shape constantly. It moves and eats by sending out leg-like nymphs. Some amoebas prey on and eat other simple organisms, such as bacteria. The amoeba's DNA is found in a central pouch called a nucleus. The cell membrane of an amoeba is very flexible and fluid. Cytoplasm makes up most of the inside of an amoeba. The amoeba sends out nymphs to completely surround a bacteria. Amoebas can sense chemicals given off by their food. This is like our sense of smell. These little sacs of enzymes, called lysosomes, move into attack position. Once the bacteria is fully captured, the lysosomes release their enzymes. They break down the bacteria into nutrients, which are taken in by the amoeba as food. That's huge! Most creatures made of one cell are tiny, but not all. This amoeba is called a cyanophylliophore. It's the biggest single-celled organism we know. It can grow up to 8 in 20 centimeters across, bigger than your hand. Protozoa pals. As well as amoebas, there are two other major types of protozoa. They are the celydates and the fragilates. Celydates are covered in hair-like strands called cilia. They use them to move, eat, sense, and hold on to things. Fragidates have at least one long tail, called a flagellum, that they use to swim. Some fragidates cause diseases in humans. What are archaea? Archaea also look a lot like bacteria, but their cell membranes are super strong. Archaea are known for being able to live in really extreme places where other microbes couldn't survive. Hot stove. Some archaea live in temperatures around 212 degrees Fahrenheit, 100 degrees Celsius. They are called hyperthermophils. Hyperthermophils. High temperatures cause important molecules like DNA to break, so hyperthermophils need to be really good at fixing broken molecules. The cell membrane of a hyperthermophil is strong to help it survive extreme heat, such as near an underwater vent. What is an underwater vent? Water seeps into cracks in the ocean floor where it's heated by hot rocks and magma. It then emerges in places called hydrothermal vents, which are like underwater volcanoes. Hyperthermophils can be found living here. Archaea can have more than one flagellum or tail to help them move around. Where hot water from the vent meets cold water in the ocean, dark smoke forms. Hot water spouts out the top of an underwater vent. Extreme archaea. Archaea aren't only found in high temperatures. Some archaea have made their home in other extreme environments. Surviving salt. Scientists used to think nothing could survive in really salty water. However, some archaea can live in water that is 10 times saltier than the ocean. Resisting radiation. Certain types of archaea can survive 3,000 times the exposure to a kind of energy called radiation that would kill a human. These creatures are truly tough. There are no diseases caused by archaea. Microbe rainbow. Not all extreme microbes are archaea. These beautiful rainbow colors circling the Grand Prismatic Spring at Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming are actually created by heat-loving bacteria. Microanimals. Not all microorganisms are made of a single cell, like bacteria and protozoa. Some are made of many cells, but are still too small to see. We call the creepy-crawly ones microanimals. Meet a few of them here. Eyelash mites. Half of all people have demodex living in their eyelashes. Demodex are a type of animal called a mite that are about 0.2 in 0.4 millimeter long. They have eyelash mites. Half of all people have demodex living in their eyelashes. Demodex are a type of animal called a mite that are about 0.2 inch, 0.4 millimeters long. They have 8 legs and walk around on our eyelids at night. These are mite tails poking out from inside an eyelash follicle. Nematode worm. 90% of the animals on the ocean floor are tiny creatures called nematode worms. They can also live inside people and other animals. Nematodes eat plants and other microbes, such as bacteria. The smallest nematodes are still 40 times longer than E. coli bacteria. Most nematodes are under 0.1 inch, 2.5 millimeters long. Tardigrade, also called water bears, space bears, and water piglets. These awesome tiny animals are really tough. They can live in extreme temperatures and survive without food for 30 years. Tardigrades grow to be about 0.2 inch, 0.5 millimeters long. Check out the tiny claws. Copepod. Copepods are a kind of animal known as a crustacean that are found in the sea. Like all crustaceans, such as crabs and shrimps, they wear the skeleton on the outside like armor. This little copepod is microscopic. Others can grow big enough for us to see with just our eyes. Timeline of microbiology. What we know about microbes and microbiology has changed over the years. Here are just a few of the most important moments and discoveries. Culture. Model of Hooke's microscope. Spirogyra algae. Cowpox virus. 1854. The cause of cholera is discovered when John Snow figures out that something in the water is making people sick. We pasteurize milk in order to kill any germs. Surgical tools are sterilized or cleaned with high temperatures or strong chemicals. 1656. Microbes. Looking for a cure for the plague in Rome, Italy, scholar Athanasius Kircher is the first person to observe microbes under a microscope. He figures out that they are the cause of diseases. 1665. Mold spores. Scientist Robert Hooke is the first person to observe and write about mold spores. He also comes up with the word cell when he notices that cork cells under a microscope look like the rooms or cells in a monastery. 1670s. Bacteria. Scientist Anton van Leeuwenhoek is the first person to describe bacteria in 1676. He later discovers Spirogyra, a type of algae, as well as tiny nematode worms. Today, Leeuwenhoek is known as the father of microbiology. Vaccines. 1796. Vaccines. Physician Edward Jenner shows that the cowpox virus is harmless to humans and it gives them immunity to smallpox, a terrible disease. This is the first ever vaccine. In fact, the word vaccine comes from the Latin word for cow. 1862. Germs. biologist Louis Pasteur proves that germs don't show up randomly. They spread from one place to another. He shows this by heating broths to kill the germs. He perfects this process, and we now know it as pasteurization. 1865. Sterilization. Inspired by Pasteur, surgeon Louis Lister comes up with the idea of sterilization to prevent infection during surgery. This includes washing hands, disinfecting wounds, and cleaning surgical instruments such as scalpels. 1928. Alexander Fleming discovers penicillin. These germ cells are being eaten up by a macrophage. Tobacco mosaic virus. Diseased leaves. 1982. Scientists learn to make insulin using bacteria. Smallpox virus. Mimi virus is 10 times bigger than a cold virus. 1880s. Staining. Physician Robert Koch invents a way to stain bacteria different colors. This makes them easier to see under a microscope and helps him identify the bacteria that causes the disease, tuberculosis. 1883. Macrophages. Zoologist Dyer Mechnikov observes cells eating other cells. This act is called phagocytosis, and it's how some of the white blood cells in our body called macrophages fight infection by eating the intruding germs. Viruses. Botanist Dmitry Ivanovsky and microbiologist Martinus Beijerinck discover a disease in plants that is spread by something smaller than bacteria, the tobacco mosaic virus. This is the first virus ever discovered. 1972. Genes. Biochemists Stanley Cohen and Herbert Boyer use enzymes to copy bits of DNA from one organism to another. This is the start of genetic engineering, or changing the DNA of an organism to affect how it behaves. 1980. Smallpox. For the first time ever, a disease is completely destroyed worldwide. Smallpox is no longer a threat thanks to a global vaccine effort. Samples of the virus are still kept in laboratories so scientists can use them for research, but some people think even they should be destroyed. 203. More to learn. Biologist Didier Raoult finds a very large virus, Mimi virus, that acts differently than other viruses. This discovery makes scientists question what a virus really is, which just goes to show there's a lot more still to learn about microbiology. Do you like this book? I've read all of this book for you. Don't forget to leave your feedback and subscribe. Also, watch my videos every day. Thank you so much. Bye.